Welcome to lesson 7 of our tutorial series where we build an inventory management system. In lesson 6, we were working on this form, which is a form to create items into the inventory system. Okay, and we didn't have the track inventory for this item, like we didn't had the input to track a particular item in the inventory system to that form. But as I was about to start working on how we can actually save this item into the database when it is being created, I just thought of it would be useful to simply just add a means of tracking the particular item in the inventory system as a whole. So where you as a owner, okay, of the inventory may decide whether to track that particular item or not. Okay, so in the form, when an item is being created, the person creating this would then have the choice of whether to decide to track that particular item or not. If you decide not to track it, you just fill in the form and submit your form. Otherwise, if you want to track it, you click on track inventory for this item, and the inputs as displayed below will then be entered, and the item will be able to be trackable. Okay, so this is how the application connects or communicates with the database. We are accessing the MongoDB URL, which is an environment variable. Okay, this is created in our .env file in the root of the project, which is this. Okay, so this is where it is declared MongoDB underscore URL, and our MongoDB that was created in the database details are put in here. Okay, so and that is how our Prisma ORM is able to communicate. It's taking the database and is being able to access the database, communicate with the database, and save the data. I will show you the code snippet that is making this happen. Okay, so let's go to our Visual Studio Code. In the form, in our components, let me close all this. So you go to the components inside of forms. Inside of forms, we already have our new item entry form that was created in lesson 6. However, the part that is added to it for me to be able to track it, track inventory. Okay, so I can just find so that we get to, okay, so that we are able to quickly go to, okay, so this is the part where we display that part of the form. If I can delete this and save the form, let me refresh or reload the application. We can see that facility, that part of our tracking is already gone. Okay, so I am going to undo it, and we have this again. Okay, it's reloading the page. Okay, while it reloads the page, let's just go and check out our let's go and check out the code that we are working on here. And by the way, the checkbox is coming from SHA-CN. It was imported up here. This is the checkbox. Okay, it's coming from SHA-CN UI. Okay, so let's go back here. And just like the other checkboxes that we have used in the form, is the same. So it took in these props, the ID. We are using the ID so that we know when this checkbox has been checked or unchecked or not. Okay, so we're taking the checked properties of it, and we are going to use this to determine or to know whether the form or this part of the form is actually clicked by the user, okay, or checked by the user. And unchecked change is another prop that is coming from SHA-CN checkbox, and we are assigning this arrow function. We are taking the value, okay, and we are checking. We are ensuring that the value that is assigned in whether it is checked. We are making sure that we are setting this set show tracking inventory so that we get exact value that the user has selected. If it is not checked, we get the value of false. If it is checked, we get the value of true. And where our show tracking and show tracking inventory and show tracking inventory or set show tracking inventory, okay, is actually being used to manage our application state for this input. So let's go up. Okay, this is where it was set. We just declare a constant function of show tracking inventory, and we set show tracking inventory, and we are using that from React use state, okay, which is an hook from React. Okay, the initial one state is set to false, okay, because by default it should be set to false. The user then decide whether to set it to true or not. Okay, so basically that is what is happening there. We'll come back here later. Let's go back. Let me just use this quicker one. Okay, so basically our checkbox is working in that way. So it toggles between showing the input for tracking or not, depending on what is selected. Okay, so once that is done, we are then using our show tracking inventory that was declared, and we set the state to be false, originally up there like you saw. Then that is, if it is false, this part of the form is not going to be shown or rendered to the user. Otherwise, if it is true, then everything in these brackets, okay, would then be shown to the user. And you can see the last part of it is just the button where we are checking on the state, whether it is, if is submitting is true, that means the form has been, the button has been clicked. And while the application is trying to connect and interact with the API to communicate and to store the data into database, we display adding to the user. Once that is done, fulfilled, then it render add item into the button again. That's all. Okay, so in here, basically that is what is happening, and I don't think I need to explain or to dwell more on how the forms are being form input has been accessed here, because it was we did that in lesson 6. So basically, that is what it is on the tracking of the item input that is now included in the form. So why that is done? Let's go on. Let me go on with explaining a few things that are now added to the form. Okay, in lesson 6 again, all of these functions were done in lesson 6, and no changes is made to them. It's not necessary to make any change, and so all of these are still intact as they were from lesson 6. Okay, however, when we are handling the form submission, okay, there is this function that is going to be used to handle our form submission, form input into the database. Okay, so and we are attaching that function into an onSubmit but params properties rather of the form. We are of JavaScript rather onSubmit event. So we then connect that with our handleSubmit function. Okay, so this handleSubmit function, I am going to explain what it is and how it handles our form submission. So, but before I come to handing of to the function, I need to show you few other things, okay, that are used. Okay, we equally declare these images, and we are setting images, okay, into an empty array at the default state of these images. Okay, these images and set images are equally discussed in our, let me quickly go there. There is a multiple image uploader. Okay, you see. So our multiple image uploader function takes two props, images and set images. This was equally discussed in lesson 6, so I'm not going to go there. This was just for reference sake. Okay, so I'm closing this. Okay, so we are using the same, and we are setting the initial state to an empty array because our input, our form input, okay, for creating an item allows multiple image upload at once. We saw it in practice last time, even though we were just using it to set images into the browser state, not necessarily submitting them to the application folder or to the database in whatever way. Okay, so that's having said that, then we are going to take all the inputs that are coming from, I don't know what tripped this, what is tripping it. I might have tampered with something. Okay, but nevertheless, we'll fix it. Okay, so the input, perhaps I just need to refresh this. Okay. Okay, so let's see whether, yes, our tracking inventory is already back. Okay, so all this input that is coming from the form when you are creating an item and saving it into the inventory system, all these inputs are the things that are being taken care of here. All these names, okay, that are set to empty string, and some are set to initial units and returnable, and probably I don't need to dwell much on this. This is just setting the initial state for all our inputs that are expected in the database. Okay, you can see it's because we are accepting a lot of inputs. That's why we have these long list. Okay, some are set to false, some are set to let me just say Boolean. Okay, because we've seen one that is true. Okay, and some are set to empty string, and the ones that are expecting, that are declared as numbers, okay, are set to 0. Okay, so basically that is what it is. Okay, that is what we have in the initial form state. Okay, so, and I decided to do it this way so that after a successful submission or creation of an item, we can just call on initial form state, and so that we are able to reset the form inputs, okay, into the initial form state, which will give us what we have here as initial. Okay, after this is done, the next thing is to create our, form data and set form data into the initial state form. So everything that is in here in the initial state is now being sent into the form data, okay, as a state. Beautiful. Okay, so after having explained this, let me go to our main handleSubmit function. Okay, by default, we are trying to prevent the default behavior of form. Okay, that's what that is. Okay, now here, okay, we are taking all the images. We are checking against the images whether the user has attached or uploaded images to the item creation. And we are saying if images.length, okay, it's not, is equal to 0, it means the user has not inputted any, has not added any image. Then we return an alert that the user should at least put one image. This part of the code then depends on you as a owner. Okay, it depends on what you want. You may allow creation of item without necessarily adding any image, and that's fine, but this is just for tutorial sake. Okay, in real application, there may not be any need to do this. If there is no need or use case, or your inventory use case does not necessarily need an image, it can then be removed. You see, okay. So these images, it's what we are getting from the state that is set here, and I'm going to explain further on, or probably I can just go there. Let's go there. Let's go there. Let's go there where I should be able to multiple. Yes. So our multiple image uploader that we saw here, that takes into props, is now being used here. We just simply use it here. This is so that we don't have a lot of code in this new item entry form, so that it's easier to manage, because you can see that, this component alone is huge. You see, it's actually very huge. Okay, so this is just for manageability sake, and it was discussed in lesson 6, so we are not coming there. I'm just trying to show you. So it's taking in two props, images and set images, and we are setting images to set images, we are setting images to images, and these values, okay, are coming from the form input, okay, and we are managing the state here. So let me go back to the handleSubmit function. Okay, so After checking against whether images has been added or not, then we then throw in a try catch block. What our try catch block does here is it handles the form inputs. We are coming there. If there is an error, we throw that error. And finally, if there is no error and the form has been submitted, we set our is submitting back to false. Our submitting our is submitting, okay, is what we are using on the button to display to the UI whether we are submitting or adding that particular item, or we are in a default state of add item. Okay, so this is submitting is one of those states that we declared here. Okay, so let me go back to the okay, so that is what is happening here. We finally set it back to false, which is the original. Or otherwise, if there was any error, our try catch block will catch the error and display the or alert the error. Okay, now if there is no error, then the form submission is handled in here. So we use our for key in here to number one, we are making the application to accept all the inputs that are non-image or images. So, and this is from JavaScript, and we are taking in the key in form data. By the way, for the form data, okay, I have not explained our, this is this variable is declared, okay, and we are assigning a new form data, and this form data function is coming from our browser API, where all the users form input data, okay, are accessed and collected. So we assign form data to send. This is the data now that we want to send to the database. Okay, so we assign this form data from the browser API to read. So the value will be saved or stored in form data to send. Okay, then we from there check through all and access all non-images, okay, that are being imputed by the user. I want to come back here, that are being imputed here. Cool. So, and we take each of those inputs, and once those each of those inputs are checked through, they would then be appended to our form data to send. We take in the key and we take in the value. The value will be coming from the form data. Okay, so so this will now hold our form data to send, will now hold the form input that the user has added. And again, we want to handle the images. Here we are looping through the images, okay, and checking whether the images the user has had imputed more than one image. We loop through, okay, and once that is looped through, we then take our form data to send, we append images to read. These images, okay, is coming from the form. It's coming from the form input, okay, that is accessible in our multiple uploader. Okay. Okay. As we can see. Okay, so then we take the information of the uploaded images or attached images. Then we loop through them and wrap it in JSON stringify method. Okay, that is coming from JavaScript. So basically, this is how we handle the form submission. Okay, then the last part of it is we now then need to communicate to our API. And in this particular tutorial, we are not using any third-party API tool. We are simply using the native inbuilt fetch API of JavaScript. And this fetch method, okay, will take in two params. The first parameter is the API route, and the other one is an object, okay, where we wrap in the form data, and we tell it the method that we are using. In this particular case, the method is a post, and we are assigning the form data to send to the body. Okay, so basically these these two parameters are expected: the API route and this object, okay, where we declare the method and the body, which is actually the actual data, okay, that is to be submitted. After this, okay, we await whatever that is happening here. Because this function is actually an async await function. Let's go back to the starting point. Okay, you can see our handleSubmit is an async function. So we then able to await the response from the API server. And once we get the response, we assign it to the response, and we check whether everything, if it's not okay, if response is not okay, then we throw in this error. Otherwise, if it's okay, we take in the data, we assign the response, okay, that is now being that is now converted to JSON data object. We assign that to data. Okay, I might just need to comment this one out. Okay, this was when I was trying to log in to check the developer console. Okay, so now we have the data in JSON format. Then we then check whether it's okay. Okay, the response is okay. Then we alert. Once this response is okay, what that simply means is our item has been successfully created. Then we tell the user that item created successfully. We'll then set our form data to the initial state, that is resetting the form back to where there was no input. And we take the set images function that was declared to be an empty array originally. We set it back to the original. We clear all the images. Okay, so basically this is what our handleSubmit function looks like. I am going to explain talk more on why we are checking through the response, whether this response is not okay and whether it is okay. Okay, because this is made available through our API route that we are going to look into, because this is the server side of the application that is being communicated to. We are communicating through this API call. Okay, so having shown you this, we can then go to our API. Okay, let me close this component. Okay, before I go to the API, I need to quickly say this again for those that might have forgotten, or that those that are new or relatively new to Next.js application. A Next.js application is the way it is structured is such that anything that is meant to be pages, okay, are created as pages. You don't have to name it. You don't have to have a bracket of pages, or that's not what I mean. It simply means that when you are pointing to a route, for instance, if your application is stockify.com, for instance, if a user needs to visit adjustment page, okay, the navigation link is going to take the user to stockify.com/adjustment. So the page, automatically the page that is inside of our adjustment directory or folder will be displayed to the user. Okay, in the same manner, when you are communicating to the server, not the front side of the application, but the server side end of the application, the endpoints. This is where the endpoints are made. You need to create inside of app folder a folder called API. Then you are good to go, because Next.js will simply just take anything inside of the API as backend to be utilized by the backend. Okay, so in our form, when we declare that we need to make a call to API/newItem, then in our API folder, we need to create another folder called newItem. Once this is created, newItem, in the same way it is created here, it doesn't have to be newItem. You can call it item, you can call it new, you can call it whatever name. But we are using newItem because obviously we are creating newItem. This route, or this API endpoint rather, is going to allow user to create a new item into the inventory system. So inside of your directory, inside of the API directory, you simply create a route.js file. This route.js must be named exactly route.js. Okay, all our backend files are .js or .ts if you are using TypeScript. You can use JSX here or TSX. Okay, these are route handlers. Okay, so the form, I mean the file should be route.js. So if you need to create multiple routes, what you do is create multiple folder, create route.js, and write the code and that will handle the functionality as it is required. Okay, now in our route, this is a new part to the tutorial. In our route, all the these are all the okay, so in our route, we are going to be importing these few items. We import next response from next server. We are importing Prisma from a Prisma file. I'm going to explain on the Prisma model and structure later. And we are importing rights file from FS promises, and we are importing path from path, and we are importing v4 as UUID v4 from UUID. And okay, this is going to be used to generate a unique ID for our item. Okay, and we are taking object ID from BSON. We are going to see the reason why these are needed, and all these are third-party packages that I installed. I'm going to provide a link to, not necessarily a link. I'm going to provide the code snippet for installing of these. Otherwise, our Next.js or React.js, you simply use npm. Okay, not only npm can be used, but I use npm most of the time. I hardly use other ones like yarn. Okay, I find it just fine enough for me. So I'm going to provide the code snippet for installing all of these packages that are needed in our to handle our routes, to handle our form. Okay, like before, we are going to be using a try-catch block, okay, to handle error. If there is an error, we handle it. I kind of a fan of just using a single object to handle my response. Both can be used, both way can be used. The original we saw there can be used. Okay, there is another excessive. Okay, so here we handle error. We are making use of next response. Whatever the response is coming from the application, we concatenate that with a JSON object, and we throw in all the responses the way we want it. Okay, and the status will be 500 because there is an error, and we take in the error message, and we are assigning OK to be false because OK will not be true. It won't be OK when there is an error. So this is where when I was talking about data.OK, this is where we get the OK. So if there is an error, there is not going to be, the OK will be false. That's why we check through, we check our response against whether it's OK or it's not OK. Okay, in our form, that is from the UI. Okay, so if there is an error, OK will be false, it will be a false, it won't be OK. So which means this part of our application, this part of the code is going to be triggered. But if it is OK, this part of the code is going to be triggered instead, and we would have handled our form submission. So let me open our try-catch again. So in our try-catch, the form data, okay, this is coming now, is being sent, is coming from the front end. This is again an async function, and it's a post function. So we taking the form data that is coming from the front end. We await, and the request, we take the request object here. We then assign the form data. Okay, we assign the form data that is coming from the front end. Originally, I said this is coming from the front end. This is an assignment. This is a variable that is holding, that will hold, okay, the form data that is coming from the request body of the application, and this is coming from the front end. Once we get this, we need to extract all form data. Okay, how do we extract the form data? We are declaring another variable. We are taking the inbuilt object function of JavaScript, and we are appending that to the from entries, which is equally coming from the JavaScript API. and whatever that was sent here, we are checking through all the entries. Okay, all of these are coming from JavaScript API. Okay, so we after that has been assigned to all form data including images, then we then separate images and metadata from all form data. This is what we get. Images files, okay, is equal to form data to dot get all, and these are coming from the JavaScript API. So we take in the images. Okay, then metadata is equally being extracted from the form data. We get all image metadata. Again, this is JavaScript coming from JavaScript API. Then we map through, okay, and we pass in whatever data that is derived here into JSON, into JSON object. What then happened is in our form from the UI, I showed it earlier on. Let's quickly go back. In the initial form, remember, okay, we are taking the dimension length, we are taking the dimension width, we are taking the dimension height. If I need to show you these inputs, these ones. I mean, this is where we get those. Originally, I didn't put border around here, but I find it more user-friendly to just put it. Yeah, we can work on beautification of the UI later on. Now we are much interested in the functionality. Okay, so that is okay. So these ones are coming, and we are now trying to make use of them here. Okay, the way when we get to our Prisma model, I'm going to explain more, because the way our dimension is handled or submitted into the database is such that the dimension is going to take those three parameters of the dimension and save it as a string. We are not saving dimension length, width, and height in separate separately. We are not saving them separately. We're just saving all of these three as a unit in against dimension. I'm going to re-emphasize it when I get to showing you the model for our database. Okay, so this is what is happening here. We are taking the data that the user has imputed from the front end, okay, and we are destructuring the input, okay, from all form data. The all form data is was collected here from our front end, and here we are destructuring those details, okay, from our all form data. Okay, so which means now we have access to all of these destructured data that are coming as variables. Okay, so after that has happened, we then need to process. We want to process the data, trackable inventory. So this is basically a way of assigning the value that user has sent from the UI, from the front end, and we assign value to these. And these variables are variables that are declared in our model, in our database ORM, which we are going to see when we get to that part. Okay, so then we take in all the other values, the numerical values, item weight, the selling price, the cost price, the opening stock, the stock rate, the reorder point. All of these, okay, then we pass them as float. Okay, so basically that is what that is. Okay, so when we are done with that, we come to our images. In our images, we are going to be using our promise.all function. Why promise.all is just that the application will wait and access and ensure that all the images that are attached, okay, has been properly loaded. Then we map through in an async function. We take in these two params, okay, or prompts, okay, to manage our images. Remember, the images that are being uploaded and attached to a particular item that is being created will be uploaded, okay, to your server. And I am using uploaded images, which is a directory created inside of our public. The public in Nest.js is usually outside of our app application. This is the public, and this is the directory that I created. So any uploaded image, okay, will be uploaded into our uploaded images direct inside of public. You can choose whatever way you want to do it. And all these process dots are CWD, okay, and is coming from path, okay, that we imported here. We import path from path. So once that is done, then we take in the file name. The file name is, I decided to use UUID version 4 to just change whatever the file name that in order for us to prevent some funny characters in naming of the image that we don't have control over. What we have control over is change the name. We rename it. So here we are renaming it. Once that is done, we are still awaiting the promise all. Then once the promise has been resolved, okay, you write a file with this function. We just write the file to upload path. Then we take in buffer from buffer. All these are JavaScript API. Okay, so after that is done, we then return the images. So after writing the file to the upload path, then we return these objects. After that is done, okay, there is the URL part. Okay, the URL part takes the upload images, which is the directory in which the file or the images are uploaded. Then we append the file name. Okay, so this is now being assigned into the URL variable here, and that URL is then saved, okay, to the database. Or let me say this is part of the data that is going to be saved in the database. Okay. So in here, we then create our final transform data. I was explaining on dimension the other time. So we taking our process data that was assigned, declared and assigned earlier on. Here we want to take in dimension. This dimension is a field in our database. We don't have dimension length, width, and height in the database. We simply want to put all of the three together and assign it to a single field, which is dimension. And we take in our images. Okay. as well. After that is done, okay, we create an item. This is where we want to create the item to be stored in the database now. We make a call to Prisma.inventoryItem.create. Then we put in this object inside of the function, create function. Okay, and the way Prisma handle data, okay, is expecting the object to be assigned to data. That's why we assign it to data here. Data that is assigned, or transformed data is assigned to data. Our transformed data is here, is assigned to data. Okay, and Prisma.inventoryItem, we are going to, I'm going to explain on this again. This is the name of our model that is going to handle the input for submission to the database. Okay, and Prisma, okay, so it's expecting the name of the model, and on top of that inventory, I mean the name of the model, we can then append the function which is coming. This is all inbuilt into Prisma, okay, to interface with our database. Okay, so you will see the name of our inventory item later on. And by the way, this inventory item must have been okay, we can leave it as it is. I wanted to say it must have been imported up there, but because we are using Prisma as our ORM, we don't need to import it. Okay, we don't need to import it. Otherwise, if we're using Mongoose to interact with the database, that's when we need to actually import it. Okay, so in Prisma, we don't need it. Okay, so once we assign this to the item, this is not necessarily, it's not necessary that we assign it to any item. We don't even need to declare any variable. We can just await the data creation, and we take it forward from here. And in that case, we won't have this item object here. Otherwise, I put it, okay, for development sake, so that we can see what items are actually, we can see this in the console, okay, and see all the items. Otherwise, without even seeing it, if it's truly created, it will be created, then you can check it out in your database. And so once everything is passed, we connect our next response.json function again. We throw in this as an object, what is happening. So this is where we say okay is true, and that is when if I can quickly go to let's go to handleSubmit. Yes, our handleSubmit function that was I was explaining the other time. Okay, so this is where we can then test against whether the response data is okay, because we are telling in our root we made it possible. Otherwise, if what I would do here is to say yes, if I'm assigning this truth value to yes, then what would happen here is data.yes. If data.yes, then it's fine. Otherwise, that is how that is handled. Okay, and I explained on the catch error and the if there is an error, that was already dealt with earlier on. So basically, this is what our route, our API endpoint looks like. So this is what our route folder looks like. So I would scroll slowly, okay, to check or to reveal all the code. Okay, I completely forgot to close this. Maybe it's going to give you a better view, okay, of everything. Let's go to convert. Okay, we can see what is happening here. Let's go to process images. Process images. Let's see. Let's go to create final transform data. And we are creating the item. Okay, so this is what our route.js code looks like. Okay, and let me open this again. So because in our API there is a directory named name and new item, and there is a route.js. So in our form, we then have the ability, okay, to make this API and call to make call to this API endpoint, and that should handle our data submission. Okay. So this it would then be connected, okay, to our, will communicate to our database. Before, let me show you in the Prisma. Okay, so to handle our Prisma, let's go back to the route. Let's go back to our route. In our routes, we made a call to, when we are trying to create the object, I mean the item. Okay, we are awaiting Prisma dot inventory item. This Prisma, okay, is imported here. We are importing Prisma from Prisma.prisma or /prisma. So what is we are using here, okay, it's coming from our root directory of this one. Let me close this app. It's actually our Prisma directory is outside of the app, but it is inside of the root of the entire project. So this is our Prisma. Inside of our Prisma directory, we have another prisma.js. Okay, and actually our application can work without this. It can work without this. Maybe I should just be silent on this for now in order not to cause confusion. Okay, so we are coming to schema.prisma. So this schema.prisma, when you are using Prisma as an ORM that communicate with the database, it is essential to create a schema.prisma file. So Prisma is going to look and check your schema.prisma and utilize the information that is there. What is not necessary is this folder of Prisma. It's not necessary. You can put it in the root, you can put it anywhere. All we just need to do is to import it where in the route.js file that is where it's going, where it is needed. All we need is just to import it into it. What is important is that it must be named schema.prisma, and that's how it's going to function. Okay, so in our schema.prisma file, we need to declare the data source. The data source as DB, okay, is, and inside of the DB, we are going to declare the provider. Provider can be MongoDB, like this one, we are using MongoDB, because it can be other databases like SQLite, it can be Progress, it can be MySQL, and all that. But basically, we are declaring the data source. So our Prisma is expecting this structure. Okay. After that, we declare what the generator is. Generator client. All these can be found in Prisma tutorial or documentation. Okay, so after that, now comes the main thing, which is our model. Is our model. So our model is declared to be or called inventory item. And that is why here we could, use it. I'm trying to go to, it's always faster to check item. Yes. So the inventory item, okay, is coming from here. It was declared here. It was declared here. When we are declaring it in the model, it has to be capitalized using a capital letter to start it. And here we are appending, we are just taking it as it is here. Then we are using the create function that is coming from Prisma to handle our item creation. Okay. Okay, these are all the inputs that we need to submit to the database. Okay, so here you see that our dimension, which is a field in the database, and by the way, every field, everything declared here are going to be stored in the database as fields, individual fields in that particular item, inventory item collection, okay, in our database. So all of these are coming through. So this is where we declare what data type they are. Do you want to make an input to be unique, like our SKU? Okay. We are making it to be unique. Our unit, all these are strings. Okay. Some are set to default, like returnable is false by default. Capital asset is default, is false by default. So this is where we declare those. And our selling price is float, you know, and the cost price is equally float. Remember, we were using pass floats there in the front end, okay, to just make sure that the data that is being submitted is what is expected, okay. And again, we come to the images, okay. The images are, remember that our application is capable of accepting more than one image per item creation. So that is why in our schema, we are taking this images field and we are saying it can be an array of images, okay. And the date and the created date and updated date are always the date time, default, and updated at, okay, as we find it here. Okay, so we are going to be using an embedded way of creating images. We don't want to create a separate object for images and then use the object ID to connect or to relate to the item. We simply want to embed it or embed it into it. As a result of that, these images is coming, we said it can be in arrays, right? Then we need to declare the type of it. What is the type of the image? The type of the image is these objects with ID, with URL, with whether it's primary, which is default by false, because whatever image that comes, one must be set as primary from the UI. So by default is false here. Then the date, I mean the time, that is the timestamp, let me just put it that way. Okay, so once the database, I mean the item is created, is going to be created in the collection, and all the fields that are going to be there would have images as an object. You will see it when we create our item. So basically, this is what our schema looks like. Okay, this schema code is going to be provided. I'm going to share a link to where you can access this. Okay, so this is our basic structure. So this is what our model looks like structure wise. And with this, we can test out our form. We can test out our item creation. Okay, so let's try our item creation. Let's try to create item. So I will say item 1 with the SKU. I'm just going to type something. I'm going to leave the unit as it is. Maybe we check it as a capital asset. No, not necessarily. Okay, I'm coming to the dimensions. Let's set in something like 180 by 45 by 25, and let's maybe we'll switch this to, let's change the unit, maybe inches, otherwise maybe centimeter. You can choose as you like. Then weight, let's say the weight is 51 kg. Switch this one to kg. And let's select the manufacturer, and the manufacturer we can say is Theo Traders, and we choose brand 1. And don't forget that these are going to be real actual brands. Okay, and brands can be pre-created, supposed to be pre-created, the brands that you deal with. Okay, and traders can be pre-created or simply managed by adding more manufacturers. We did this, show this example in lesson 6. Okay, so let's continue. The currency that we are using is a South African rand, and selling price. Let's say the selling price of this product is 40 rand, and let's say account sales. Let's just choose a sales description. I can, let's say it's item 1 sales. Let me copy this just to make our subtest faster. Item 1 sales. Let's say this is item 1 purchased. Okay, then cost of goods sold, is it expenses? Let's just put inventory and cost price. Since we are selling for 40 rand, let's say the cost price maybe is I don't know how much profit you want to make. Okay, so let's just say it's 24. Yes. Okay. Aha. Then what vendor? Just let's choose vendor A for our first. Then we want to be able to track these. We want to track these products, right? I'm just picking something, raw material. I'm saying opening stock. At the time of creating this entry, let's say the opening stock is going to be 120. Let's say 128. Okay, and the other point, the point at which when our product reach this level, we want to make a new order so that we have stock. Let's say, depending on how quick this product goes. That is what's going to inform what you choose. And valuation type, is it last in, first out, or FIVO, first in, first out? I just check something. And opening stock rate. Okay, opening stock. This is rate per unit. I just choose 7. Okay. It is essential to say here that you see some of the inputs here may not really be necessary for a simple inventory system. We are just creating this to give an overview and for you guys to be knowledgeable about what is possible. Okay, that was actually the reason why I said I was not going to add the tracking facility to it. But I changed my mind. It is still fine. We have all the inputs set. Okay, okay, but the images are not already. The images are not there. So let's add some. Let's add some images. Let's browse. If you want to cancel, you can just click over it and click on the remove. Okay, so once this item is created, we are expecting it to have 3 images. Okay, let's try. Is there any other thing we need to check? We just try. Let's try. Okay, and here comes an alert that item created successfully. The item has been created successfully. Okay, so let me click on this. And by the way, we are not going to use this alert in the actual project. We are going to use a toastifier to have a better UI. Okay, so I'm closing. Okay, so then let's check the database and see whether it has equal. That information has been stored. Okay. Let's log in to access. Cluster. And we have to browse the collections. It's collection. Yeah, I did that just to be able to refresh that collection. Okay, let me come here. Okay, I was not looking properly. I should have used this. Okay, so wow. Oh no, this is not the. Okay, we will be coming to Stockify. This is where we need to check. Okay, so and this is it. This is it. Query objects. Query result 1 of 1. So this is our item. So this is the item that we just created. Let me open this. Yes, I actually wanted to show this image. You see, image is an array of objects. Okay, with each of the images metadata are like here. Is primary true, and this is the path URL where it was updated, and this is the name of the image that we use our UUID to generate. Okay, and this is default object ID of MongoDB. So this is the time it is created. And if you see the 0 one, the one that is 0 on 0 index will always be the primary one. That's how it was configured to look like. Its primary will be false here. Every other image will be false. They being primary will be false. Okay, so we have successfully created our item. Okay, so in the next lesson, we are going to display this object that is, this item that is saved into the database. So each time an item is created, it's going to be loaded to the UI for user to see. So the few things we are going to be implemented in our next lesson is number one, we are going to make it render to the user. Immediately the item is created, user can be able to see it, and we are going to make provision for ability to either delete or to edit that item from the UI. Okay, so this is all in this particular lesson, which is lesson 7 of our tutorial series. Thank you for watching. For those subscribed to our channel, don't forget to do so. Hit the notification bell to get notified whenever a new tutorial is dropped. Thank you. Bye.